Hey guys, tonight we will gently drift back in time to the smoky, bustling streets of Victorian London, following the humble footsteps of a forgotten hero. Imagine, if you will, the creeping tendrils of a London fog, thick as pea soup, swirling around grand facades and cobblestone alleys, swallowing daylight whole. Before the comforting glow of electric streetlights, darkness was a tangible, often terrifying presence. You might think it sounds romantic, but trust me, you probably wouldn't survive this for a day, what with the smog, the disease, and the general lack of modern conveniences. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's relax and begin tonight's journey together. The city begins its slow exhale, a sigh that pulls the last remnants of daylight from the sky, and you, a lamplighter of Victorian London, feel the familiar call of dusk. Your shift is about to begin. You cinch your waistcoat a little tighter, the wool scratchy against your skin, and give a quick polish to the brass buttons that mark your municipal service, a small badge of honor in a world where many go unnoticed. From your small lodging, perhaps a cramped room in a tenement building, you step out onto streets already softening into shadow, the air thick with the smell of coal smoke and damp earth. This daily ritual, starting precisely as twilight deepens, is a common historical fact. Thousands of men like you across the city are preparing for their routes. It's a quiet but vital undertaking, a nightly transformation of the public thoroughfare. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that many lamplighters, before starting their rigorous journey, would tap their pole 3 times on the cobblestones, a small, personal ritual they believed would appease the mischievous spirits of the gas pipes. Historians still debate whether the rigorous punctuality enforced on lamplighters was primarily for public safety or simply a reflection of Victorian society's rigid class structures. You know that precise timing is paramount, or the city plunges into even deeper gloom, which nobody wants. You glance at your trusty pole leaning against the wall, ready for its nightly dance. It's a long, slender thing, almost a part of you, much like a modern smartphone is to, well, you get the idea. But infinitely more useful for its intended purpose than scrolling through endless cat videos. Your essential gear is simple. Yet it is what separates you from the teeming masses, a collection of tools vital for the city's nightly glow. First, there's your pole, about 15 feet long, made of lightweight wood, tipped with a small brass hook and an internal oil-soaked wick. This isn't just a stick, mind you, it's your wand of light, your key to unlocking the night. Then, nestled in a small leather pouch at your hip, you carry a spare flint and steel, just in case, along with a small rag to wipe away the soot that inevitably clings to everything. This dedication to specific, minimal tools was a common historical fact for your profession. Efficiency was key. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that some lamplighters would keep a small personal charm tied to their pole, believing it brought good luck and prevented the fickle gas jets from extinguishing prematurely. You've heard whispers, perhaps from old George down the lane, about how a good luck rabbit's foot once saved a lamplighter from a nasty fall on an icy night. Historians still debate the precise standardization of lamplighter equipment across different municipal authorities, wondering if certain districts had more advanced or perhaps more finicky tools. You hoist the pole over your shoulder, feeling its familiar weight, a slight ache already beginning in your shoulder, but you're used to it. After all, it's not like you have a comfortable ergonomic backpack to carry all this kit, you just make do. As you step out, the unlit streets are already a labyrinth of deep shadows, and navigating them makes you a silent, watchful observer of the city's underbelly. The air grows heavy with the promise of rain, and the faint outlines of buildings loom like sleeping giants. You quicken your pace, knowing that the earlier parts of your route are the darkest, the most prone to lurking dangers. It's a common historical fact that before widespread street lighting, city streets at night were incredibly dangerous places, breeding grounds for crime and misfortune. Every alley you pass seems to swallow the little light that remains, and you clutch your pole a little tighter, more as a comfort than a weapon. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that lamplighters often developed an almost supernatural sense of direction in the dark, knowing every shortcut, every loose cobblestone, and every hidden passage, becoming unofficial navigators of the urban maze. You sometimes wonder if the city's night watchmen would manage without your intimate knowledge of the twists and turns. Historians still debate how much crime genuinely decreased due to the introduction of lamplighters versus the simultaneous improvements in policing and urban infrastructure. You almost trip over a stray dog yelping softly, and you chuckle to yourself, thinking, guess I'm not the only one who needs a bit of light around here. This nocturnal navigation is your daily ballet, albeit one performed in perpetual twilight. Now the rhythmic dance truly begins. The bringing of light to a darkening metropolis. You reach the first lamp, its glass globe, a ghostly orb in the deepening gloom. With a practiced flick of your wrist, the brass hook at the end of your pole catches the small handle on the lamp, opening the gas tap. Then, you swiftly raise the pole again, guiding the lit wick to the mantle inside the lamp. Asterisk, pop asterisk, a small hiss, and then a glorious, steady glow blossoms, pushing back the encroaching darkness. This methodical process of lighting each lamp one after another was a common historical fact, repeated thousands of times each evening across the city. Each lamp, typically spaced about 50 yards apart, requires the same precise, fluid motion, a muscle memory ingrained over years. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that some lamplighters, particularly in the more fashionable districts, were known to leave a tiny, almost imperceptible signature flicker for a moment, after lighting a fleeting artistic flourish on their work. Historians still debate the public's initial reaction to gaslight's brighter, sometimes flickering, quality compared to the softer, warmer glow of the old oil lamps. You hear the distant clatter of a hansom cab, and for a fleeting moment you wonder if the driver, hurrying through the growing light, even notices the individual lamps you painstakingly ignite. It's a thankless job, really, but someone has to do it, or London would be one very large, very inconvenient tripping hazard. Just as the first hint of gray begins to bleed into the eastern sky, painting the rooftops with a pale, ethereal light, your task shifts. The city, still largely asleep, exhales another quiet sigh. And you begin the reverse journey, dousing the remaining flames. Your pole, once a bringer of light, now becomes an extinguisher. With another deft movement, you hook the handle, twist the tap in time, snick asterisks, the gas flow stops, plunging the lamp back into the gentle pre-dawn shadows. This systematic extinguishing of lamps, following a designated morning route, was a common historical fact, as essential as the lighting itself, conserving precious gas and signaling the end of the nocturnal shift. The city transforms once more, from gaslit glow to natural light, a quiet ebb and flow that defines your working life. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that a few resourceful lamplighters, especially those with particularly early morning routes, might accidentally forget to extinguish the lamp closest to their own tenement, affording them a little extra light for their weary walk home, a small illicit perk. Historians still debate whether the morning route was generally perceived as more or less dangerous than the evening one, with some suggesting the early morning hours, though less populated, brought their own unique hazards. You suppress a yawn, the damp morning air chilling you through your thin coat, and think, one more, and then maybe, just maybe, a warm cup of tea before the world truly wakes up and demands, well, more work. It's an almost spiritual transition, guiding the city from the shadows back into the light, only to plunge it back into darkness hours later. As your morning rounds conclude and the last lamp is extinguished, your life off the clock begins, bringing its own modest comforts and challenges. You trudge home, the heavy pole now feeling even heavier, the scent of gas and soot clinging to your clothes. Lamplighters, a common historical fact, were often poorly paid for their arduous work, earning just enough to scrape by, but they were also generally respected figures in their communities, providing a vital public service. You might spend your off hours tending a small vegetable patch, or perhaps sharing a pint with fellow workers at the local pub, swapping stories of strange nighttime encounters. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that many lamplighters supplemented their meager income with small, unofficial side jobs, perhaps delivering messages, acting as impromptu watchmen, or even mending broken household items for their neighbors. Historians still debate the true social standing of lamplighters relative to other working-class professions, often caught between the public servant and the manual laborer. You collapse onto your worn chair, letting out a groan of relief, thinking of the simple joys, a warm meal, a few hours of sleep before the cycle begins anew. No grand luxuries, no elaborate vacations, just the quiet satisfaction of a hard day's work and the hope that your boots don't develop new holes by next week. Even as you continue your nightly dance, bringing light to the familiar streets, a shadow of change begins to loom, cast not by darkness, but by a brighter, newer kind of light. Whispers ripple through the city, carried on the very air you breathe, of a new invention, electricity. A common historical fact, gaslighting, which you meticulously maintain, was itself a marvel, but it was destined to be swiftly replaced by this revolutionary power. You hear talk of brighter, steadier lights ignited with a flick of a switch, requiring no pole, no climb, no human touch. It sounds almost like magic or perhaps a threat. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that some forward-thinking municipal councils, rather than simply dismissing their lamplighters, offered them training in the maintenance of the new electric streetlights, giving them a chance to adapt to the changing times. Imagine learning to wrangle invisible currents instead of flickering gas. Historians still debate the speed and resistance to the adoption of electric street lighting in various cities, with some embracing it eagerly, while others clung to the familiar gaslight for decades. You sometimes catch sight of an experimental arc lamp, humming ominously, its stark white glow almost clinical compared to the warm, friendly orange of your gas lamps. You shrug, thinking, well, they can invent all the new lights they want, but nothing beats the steady hand of a man who knows his way around a good gas jet. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, the inevitable unfolded. Your role, once so vital, slowly began to vanish, leaving behind a profound historical impact, but an empty space on the street. It's a common historical fact that with the widespread adoption of electric lighting, the profession of the lamplighter became increasingly obsolete, fading into memory like a doused flame. The routes you walked daily, the lamps you tended, were either pulled down or converted, their purpose forever altered. A quirky, little-known piece of information is that a few stubborn, wonderfully anachronistic gas lamps still exist in certain historic districts, particularly in London, where they are meticulously maintained and even manually lit, a charming nod to your forgotten craft. Historians still debate the romanticized view of the lamplighter, often seen as a quaint figure from a bygone era, versus the harsh, often brutal reality of the job, the long hours, the cold, the meager pay, the ever-present danger. You stand, perhaps, watching a new electric lamp sputter to life with a single impersonal switch, a stark contrast to the patient, hand-lit symphony you once conducted. It's a bittersweet moment, this march of progress, replacing the human touch with mechanical efficiency. You almost miss the challenge, the familiar scent of gas, the quiet companionship of the city at night, the way the light would finally spring to life under your careful hand. The world moves on, always chasing a brighter tomorrow, but tonight we remember the one who first banished the darkness. And so, as the final gas lamp flickers out, not with a gentle twist of your pole, but with the quiet hum of an unseen current, we gently pull back from those foggy, gaslit streets. The sounds of a bygone era, the distant clatter of hooves, the soft hiss of a newly lit flame, slowly begin to recede, leaving us in the comforting quiet of our own time. Allow the imagery of the dedicated lamplighter, a silhouette against the twilight, to soften and blur at the edges, becoming just a whispered memory. There's a certain tranquility in knowing that even in the deepest darkness, there were always those who diligently brought the light. Let that thought wash over you, a gentle wave, soothing and calm, carrying away any lingering worries. As the last remnants of our journey fade, leaving only the quiet of your room, drift into a peaceful slumber, knowing that the echoes of history continue to illuminate our understanding of the world, even as we close our eyes. Sweet dreams.